Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jeff White, or JD. I used to work for FlexMLS. I was national trainer for 5 years. I worked for Prescott as the MLS director. Unfortunately, my mom got cancer, so I quit my job, and now what I'm going to do is drive around the country, train people, do some consulting so I can fly back home to Minnesota every month. And so I did Sedona a couple weeks ago. I'm going to train you. Now, we're going to cover a lot of information in this 2 hours. Everything I'm going to talk about is in this sheet of paper. So those of you that do have the computers open, you're welcome to follow along, but I can't stop if you don't know where we're at just because we have so much information. If you have any questions, though, I'm happy to answer them. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this. This is the FlexMLS. Now, you will notice up at the top, I have a gadget. This is Showing Time gadget. And actually, let me just change the name. We're going to set up a new dashboard that has some custom gadgets that you should be able to have access to next week. And so you'll probably see an email about that. Also, some of you did see, I did a stats report for the board. This is the stats report, so it shows information for 2019, and then 5-year review, and then also from 2000 to 2019. So we should have that for you sometime next week. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do on the Best of FlexMLS is we are at the top of page 1. We are going to focus on the quick launch bar. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click inside this quick launch bar. And you'll notice that if I click inside of it and don't actually do anything, it shows me some draft searches. So if you're doing a search but you accidentally close your browser, you can see your draft searches here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 176306. My client has given me an MLS number. So I type in this MLS number, and what I can do, and this could be expired, active, whatever, I click on this, and it will pull up that MLS number. So that's an easy way to pull up an MLS number. Now another thing we can do here is we can type in an address. So I'm going to type in 140 Bear Mountain. And you'll notice it's already starting to find it. And it comes back with 5 listings as the search results. That doesn't mean that there's just 5. These are just the 5 most recent status changes for those listings. So you might have like 10 or 15, so you might want to search a different way. But if you want to pull up an address of a property, type it in, and you can click on this or go to the right and click on New Tab. If you want to open this up and do a new tab, you can have as many tabs open as you would like. So let's say you're working on a listing, client calls you up and asks you about a property, you won't lose the work that you're doing. Now what's really cool about opening up a new tab is if you see anything in the system, like say I want to pull up the hot sheet, I can right click it and open this up in a new tab, and so I could do that as well, and now pull up the hot sheet. So we are on part 1, we just did B, the address. Now this is an address of something in the system. Something that's been in the MLS. If you were to type in, say, example 141 Bear Mountain, that means it's never been in the system. I mean, the address may not exist, but it hasn't been in the system. But the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a radius search. Now, for a radius search, you don't have to have an address for something in the system. You can search for any address. But the first radius we're going to do is we're going to type in 1 mile from, or 2 miles from, 3 miles from, and then I'm going to put in an MLS number, so 176306. So I do a 1 mile radius from 176306. Now you'll notice mine says 0 my residential search. I created my own quick search template. I will explain that later on in class. But when you do a search like this, it just brings back the 3 results. So if I wanted to do something like land, what I could do is I could just preface it with land. And you may want to write this down on your sheet of paper. Type in land 1 mile from, so you know. You can do other property types. You know, commercial, if I typed in multi, because multi is the 6th property type, it just shows the first 3 alphanumerically. So if I did 1 mile from and then did that, I could do a land property. So if I want to do a radius search around an MLS number, I just type it in. I can open up a new tab like I did before if I'd like. Let me just close these down. And so I now have a 1 mile radius around that, and if I were to go to the Edit Search tab, I can put in my other search parameters if I would like. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so like I said before, you don't have to have an address of a property. So let's say, now this has an MLS number. But for example, let's say our client says, hey, I want you to do a CMA for me. My property has never been in the MLS. That's fine. So what you're going to do is type in 2 miles or 3 miles, 4 miles from 3323 Walker Street. Now, I'm just going to do the street and the street suffix and the number. If it doesn't find it, I would put in Flagstaff, AZ, and then the zip code. No commas for this. We're going to use commas later, but no commas for this. So whenever I do something like this, what I always do is I always switch to the map tab to make sure it's found it, because this is Google. This is not actually FlexMLS functionality. Google is returning results. So if I go to map, looks like it has found Flagstaff. But like if it were to put you in Kansas or something else, then you would just do Flagstaff AZ 86004, whatever the actual address is. Do the whole thing. Does that make sense? Okay, so we can do a radius around an address. Again, it doesn't have to be an address of an actual property. It could just be any location that Google can find. Now, another thing that's really cool here is you can do a location, or say a landmark. If I do 1 mile from Walmart, Flagstaff, AZ. Now, something like Walmart, you're going to want to do the city and the state, because if you type in Walmart, how many Walmarts are there? So something like this, you're going to want to do the city and the state. So if you do 1 mile from Walmart, Flagstaff. Now, this could be a location of a school. Say you have a client who just became principal at the elementary school, or the hospital, doctor who just moved here and wants to live within 2 miles, so you know they can bike when it's nice. Do that search. Now, what's the first thing you always check after radius? Check the map tab, just to make sure, yep, looks like it's correct. That is a 1 mile radius around Walmart. And I can go to edit search and put in my other search parameters. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I know I'm going to go fast, but the purpose of this class really is, if I only have 2 hours, let me show you the best things that I taught 15 hours of FlexMLS training at Prescott. So these are the best things that I find that people get the most enjoyment or the most use out of. So now another thing we can do here is we can type in the name of a person. So if I were to type in Luke, I could see that I have a contact named Luke Skywalker, or there are members by the name of Luke. Now, if I click on Luke, I can pull him up, but this is a name. It doesn't have to be just a contact. It could be the name of a CMA. It could be the name of a search. It could be the name of many things in the system. Or, as we will see, if I were to type in Nancy, here are members that are named Nancy. There may be more than 5, but it's just going to return 5 here. So if you weren't sure if that was all of them, you could always type in office to do a office member search. And then you could, search there for Sharon's. Okay, the next part I want you to pay close attention to, because this shows you how powerful the searching is. What I can do is I can start a search by saying land, and you will notice now that I'm using commas. I'm using commas to break up the different type of syntax. When I'm doing an address, it's all the same thing. So if I were to do land, comma, space, 200-300K, comma, space, 86001, 86004. So when I do that, read your output to make sure it understands what you're telling it. You want land properties between 200 and 300,000 and these zip codes. And don't worry, the exact syntax I'm going to be using is written right here, so you can try it out when you get back home. I'm going to click on this. There you go, it started a search. So a lot of what I'm going to be showing you in this class today is when you're crunched for time. Let's say you're working in an open house, someone comes to that kitchen counter, you got a bunch of people, you want to do a search for them in 30 seconds and send a search their way, or you meet someone at Walmart. I'm going to show you how you can set them up with the portal really, really easily. So really, it's showing you there's a lot of efficient ways to use the system, and I want to make sure you feel confident with it, because if you're confident, you're comfortable, and then you're actually going to use it. So let me close this down. Now the next one we're going to do is I'm going to type in closed within last. Now it has to be these exact words. If I type in closed within the last, it won't recognize it. So close within last, and I have 3 months. But in your sheet of paper, write down 2 years and write down 7 days. because you can do days and years in this section as well. So closed within the last 3 months, or 7 days, or 2 years. Do a comma and a space, and then I'm going to type in 1-1.5 M. K stands for thousands, M stands for millions. And read your output. Yep, 1 to 1.5. Closed, shows the dates. Do a comma and a space. Now I'm going to type in city of Flagstaff. Read your output. It's the city town code of Flagstaff. Now sometimes you can get away without saying things like city of. If I just type in Flagstaff, that does work. So you know, to see what works for you, sometimes if it's a city with 2 names, it may think it's a city and something else, so you'd have to do city of Prescott Valley, something like that. But does this make sense?
Mm-hmm. Do you have to do like a section of a city?
You could do areas.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I do area, I could do area of 185, which is area of Presidio, or area of Presidio. It works that way as well. So I'm just going to do Flagstaff. Pull it up. Okay, so let's say someone comes to that open house. They're in a hurry. Hey, you can do a search for me. You do a search for them. Email them some listings, or reach out to them again in the future. Takes you very little time to do it up here in the Quick Launch. And the functionality of the Quick Launch bar, if you have the FlexMLS Pro app, there is a Quick Launch bar up at the top. The same functionality works. So you can type in words like this. Okay, now we're going to get really fancy. We're going to do active, comma space, 300 to 350K, comma space, 3 to 4 bed, comma space, and then I'm going to type in 2 bath. Now you'll notice when I type in 2 bath, it says 2 plus number of bathrooms. So 2, if you just have one number, it is the minimum if you don't put in a range. Do a comma space, 1500 to 1800 SQFT per square footage. And then do a comma space. Now on your sheet of paper, you will see where it says area of 180. I want you to underline that and write down the word location. Because area is just an example of a location. But what are examples of locations? Remember, we did a city. We could do an area. We could do a zip code. But remember our radius search? I could do 1 mile from and an MLS number, or 2 miles from and an address. Do all these search parameters. Take you 20 to 30 seconds to type this out. And then now you have a search. And if you need to add any other parameters, just click on the Edit Search tab right here, and you can pop in some other things. So bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, price, status, those kind of things will work here, locations. Something like a garage type, that's not a common field across all FlexMLS customers. So you just come here, check the box for attached. Takes you 2 seconds extra, and then you have the results that you need. Does this make sense? Okay. Y'all are very quiet, so I don't know if that's good or bad. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're now at the top of page 2. So another thing that you can do here is, I showed you before, you could type in a name, but menu items. If I type in saved, I can pull up my saved searches. Pull up my saved searches, and then I could click on my saved search. Or if I want to pull up, say, like the hot sheet. Hot sheet. So I'm going to show you later on in the second half. You can customize this, but basically, once you know what things are called, I just use the Quick Launch to type in things. I find it's faster, like show for showing time. Or maybe I want to do the full copy. Full copy, let's say you have a bunch of rentals. It lets you copy the exact same listing, so it only takes you a couple of minutes. One I do want you to write down, I don't cover this in class, but I would in one of my longer classes, opt-in status report. Everyone should be checking the opt-in status report once a week. When you set your client up with a subscription, if they don't click on the link, they're not opted in. So people do not realize this. So subscriptions are good for 13 months, but they do have to click on the button that says, please send me listings. So if you're checking this once a week, you may notice someone actually is not receiving subscription emails. Okay, so next thing we're going to point out is the MLS number search. Now, I showed you, you can type in 176306, which is great and wonderful if you have one MLS number. But multiple MLS numbers don't work up here. So what you do is you just type in MLS. And there's something called MLS number search. So if your client gives you a list of MLS numbers, like 180, 102, 180, 103, 180, 104. Let's say your client found some properties on Zillow. Now, we're going to be focusing in the second half of the class, showing you how you can hopefully get your clients off of Zillow and be using FlexMLS, the portal. But they give you a list of MLS numbers. The order that you put them in, you click on search, will come back in the results. Now, I want everyone to pay close attention. This is not on the sheet of paper, but this is something I like to teach. Watch what I do. Pay close attention to what I'm going to do. I'm going to check the box for MLS, so I have some selected listings. Let's say my client wants to look at these 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. I've selected some listings. When I go to the map tab, I can go to driving directions, and it has the selected 3, view in Google Maps, and now it gives me driving directions to those properties. So you can, over here, when you get the hand, use your left mouse button to change the order. You can even add an address. So you could put in, like where you work or where you live, change that to start it up. And then now you have a driving directions. Now, see it says send directions to your phone. If you have a Google account, you can send it by email or text. I'm just going to email it. It'll come to my phone. Just give it a second. There it's come. View in Google Maps, and then my Google or Apple, if you have an Apple product, your Apple Maps will launch. Give it a second. And now I have driving directions to all of those properties. So, does that make sense? Okay, I'll show you one more time. So again, the key thing, and this is where I want you to pay close attention, it doesn't have to just be an MLS number search. You could be looking in collections or a search. What you need to do is select some listings. Once you've selected them, switch to the map tab, and then go to driving directions. Make sure you have the selected listings and view in Google Maps.
Where do you put the multiple MLS numbers? You can't put them in the top bar.
Okay, so I just type in the word MLS,
Okay.
because there's an MLS number search right here. And then that brings me to the screen where I can type in multiple MLS numbers. So, any other questions? Okay, now another thing you could do is an address search. Now, let's say, for example, I have an actual address, and I showed you that earlier on in class. I typed in 140 Bear Mountain. So that's an actual address. But let's say your client calls you up and says, hey, I'm interested in that blue house in Flagstaff. And I know you get questions like that. Well, if you were to type in the word address, there's an address search where you can do a bit of detective work. So if I go to address search, I can say, okay, do you happen to know where it's located? Like, I think it's on the 200 block. And it's on Oak something. Smiling Oak, Oak Leaf, I don't remember. Type in the word oak because you have contains. So if the word oak is anywhere in the street name, it will search for it. Then you could just scroll down, click on search. Now it's going to search everything between 200 and 299, all streets that have oaks. You could scroll down, and if you see one that's active, take a look at the photos. Is this the one? Yeah, that's the house that I was looking at. So does this make sense? Mm-hmm. So, actual address, type in the address up here. But if you need to do some detective work, do the address search. Now, another cool thing about this is, let's say you have a condo complex with a bunch of units. I used to live in a place called 55 Sea Park when I lived in Florida. And so let's say you have a client who wants to list their condo, but they have no idea what they should price it at. Well, if you go 55, 55, and say there's like 40 units all with this, or maybe 55 to 59, because there's 3 buildings, you can go down to show more, and you have something called the status, where you just go to closed, and you can look at everything so for the last 2 years, or last year, and see, okay, Then you'll have a search with everything at that address, all the different units, so you can get an idea of what your client should price the property at. Questions? Okay. Very, very quiet, so that worries me. But I just hope that means my training's so awesome with the handout that you...
You're amazing.
Thank you. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is the red push pin. We're now down at the bottom of page 2. Now, I showed you can do a radius search by typing in 1 mile from, 2 miles from, 3 miles from. But the limit, the minimum here is 1 mile. You cannot go less than 1 mile up in the quick launch. But if you want to go less than a mile, if you go to the quick search, in the lower right corner, there is a red push pin. It's kind of hard to see. It's right here. If you click on that, that will give you a locate address option. So I'm going to type in 140 Bear Mountain Road, Flagstaff, AZ, 86004. Sound right? Okay, locate. Or is it 86001? Okay, close enough. Anyways, if we do radius search, this is where you can do, like, say, the 0.2, the 0.3, the 0.5 miles, and I'll do a radius search around that. Now, what's cool about once you've drawn a shape, if you click on it, it gives you an option to edit it. I can always edit the shape if I want to make this circle smaller or larger. See that orange circle, that orange dot? Smaller or larger. And then I can leave the edit shape mode if I'm happy with this new radius. Okay, we are just moving along. So this one is now, we're on the top of page 3. Quick searches. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do in the quick search. So the first thing that I want to point out, MLS of NAR. If I click on this bold word of MLS, I can see, we see 550 results. I can hold down Control, or if I have a Mac command, click on Sedona, and now this number will jump. And I can search for both boards. Now when this happens, your listings, are your property things right here, it's all, the parameters are going to disappear. So it only shows the parameters that are in common. And if I were to click back on NAR, you'll notice a lot of those fields are missing again. So if I decided not happy with that, I'm just going to click on Quick Search. I might have to have people stop using the internet. The internet's getting slow. Okay. Okay, can everyone just stop doing what they're doing?
Can I ask a question while you're doing
Yep.
that? So I've tried to do that, selecting both
Mhm.
NAAR and Sedona, but it seems like the residential, land, commercial, business opportunity, those categories don't map from one to the other. So if I select, for example, business opportunity in both of those,
Yeah.
one of them will return like land and the other one
Yeah,
will
so
return business opportunity.
you have-
How do I?
You just have to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
when you choose both of them, it theoretically should work. If you can pull it up after class, I could take a look.
Okay.
But it should, if you were to do both of them. They're supposed to be mapped correctly.
Okay.
If you were to do both, and then do property type of, okay, so there's no business opportunity for both. So if you do multifamily, then it should work for both multifamily ones. Okay, I'm just going to start closing this stuff down. Okay, so another thing that's really cool here is look at status. Now if I click on status, it drops down. If I hold on Control or Command, I can select multiple options or unselect. But if I just select closed, you'll notice it says sold date, and it has a date range right here. When you're inside of FlexMLS, watch your hover text. What I mean by that is when your mouse is hovering over things, a lot of times it will tell you important information. Now this is something you probably would not notice. I can do 1/1/2019, and this will show me everything closed since the beginning. Actually, do 2020. Everything closed since the beginning of the year, and it'll go 10 years in the future, basically meaning the search is current for the next 10 years. But if you weren't reading your hover text, you may not notice that these two. I can change from an absolute date range to a relative date range, to 185 days back. So I could do, say, 30 days back, or 30 months, or 30 years. Now, there's not 30 years of data, but you see how this works. It goes from days to months to years. So, absolute date range, relative date range. Did anyone know about this?
No.
Pay attention to your hover text, because a lot of times, you just do not notice things until it pops out at you. Now I'm just going to go back to active. And I'm going to do property subtype. Now, one thing I could do is I could click on condo. Now I see property subtype of. Don't be afraid to click on what looks like blue hyperlinks. Things that are underlined usually give you functionality. So if I hover over the of, it says click to change, include, exclude. Not of condominiums. So you can avoid certain things. Now, this came really popular when I used to train in California a lot. They had a subdivision that had HOA fees of $28,000 a year. So everyone's like, how do we avoid that subdivision? It's the exact same thing. Subdivision, you were to type into subdivision, or I'll use area instead. That probably makes more sense. I'll do area of Presidio, and then do not of. So it's not in the area of Presidio. And I'll show you how fancy this can get. So let's do 1 mile from Mountain Elementary School. And Flagstaff, just because there's probably another Mountain Elementary and I want to make sure that it finds it. 1 mile from, I do a radius search. So I have a client, just took the principal position at that elementary school, wants to live a mile from work. What's the first thing I always check after radius search? Check the map, good. Okay, that looks correct. But they don't want to be in a certain subdivision or area, let's say, or Presidio. Maybe Presidio, for example, has really high HOA fees. So I want to be in this shape, but exclude Presidio. So you can do two shapes. You can do a shape and then a search parameter at the same time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's a really cool thing you can do. Now we're going to keep moving down. Now, add a field to the search. If I click inside this box and don't do anything, on the right side I'll see all the possible fields that I can search on. But if I know what I'm looking for, I can type it in. So for example, I can type in central for central air. Now if I click on just central air, it adds just central air over. And if I check the box, watch the number is going to drop down to 5. So this is everything that has central air. But the other thing I could do, and I'm going to click on the X to remove it, if I were to type in central for central air, I can click on cooling and add the entire group over. So I could say they could have central air or refrigeration. So what this means, watch the number, see 6? When it's just central air, it says 5 results. This means this has central air. If I check the box next to refrigeration, the property can have central air or refrigeration unit. So one or the other works fine. Do it that way. Now another option you can do is I'm going to actually add your kitchen features. Is what I could do is, okay, dishwasher. If I do dishwasher or microwave, it has to have a dishwasher or a microwave. That doesn't make much sense here, so let's do what makes more sense. It has to have a dishwasher and a microwave. So it has to have both to come back in the search. Or you could say it has to have a dishwasher and a refrigerator, but not a microwave. That makes sense? So the operators are or, not, or and. And if you hover over things, you'll see where it says click to change and or not. So that hover text will give you important information. Okay, one other thing I want to point out here in the quick launch, or quick search, is this 1- residential. If I click on it, you'll notice I have one that says 0- my residential search. What you can do is you can remove the fields that you're not interested in. So remove fields you're not interested in. Then you could add fields that you are interested in, like I'm going to do cooling. I'm going to add kitchen features, and then I'm going to add energy green features. Maybe these are fields that I'm always searching on, so I always want them to be there available. So I remove the fields I'm not interested in, I add the fields I am interested in, and what I can do is I can go up to Save Quick Search Template, and I can create, now I had one called 0- my residential, I'll call this one 0.5 new residential, so I'm just putting them alphanumerical so it's easier to find. And so this template will now always be available for me. And so if I were to go into a quick search, I see 0-5 new residential. The fields that I am not interested in are removed, and the fields that I am interested are added. So, could we get the AC turned up a little bit? People are starting to fall asleep. I'm getting hot too. So.
Can you designate single level versus multi-level on there?
Okay, so what you could do is you could add a field level. So that's a style. So you could always add style. But one thing you could do is, like, you're always searching for single level and you're tired of searching for that. What you could do is check the box for single level. And I'm going to save this, search, and I'm going to save it. There's something option called that you can mark it as a favorite. So what I could do is I could call this residential single level, and so that single level is already selected. So every time I come to this search, that's already selected. So if you find you're doing a lot with your clients, and like I said before, your names of things, searches can pull up here, or I could just pull up my saved searches. If I go to my residential single level, what I will notice when I go to the Edit Search tab, that's already filled out. Right here. So you can use searches like favorites, kind of like templates, where information is already filled out, but like a single level would be a common one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just no designation for it other than...
Just whatever, you can only search on what the fields are called. So if there's another field, like, yeah, single only has... single level is just a style. So you just have to have that automatically filled out if you want to just go to that. Any other questions? Okay, so just to sum up, we just did, whenever you're doing a search, these templates, the 1- residential, the least residential, the land, these are provided you by default, but you can always remove stuff you're not interested in, add stuff you are, and then go up to Save Quick Search Template and create your own template. That explanation is at the bottom of page 3. So we're on for 5D.
How many templates can you have?
As many as you'd like. So you're just provided some default ones just to get you started, but yeah, you can customize a lot of things in FlexMLS very easily. Okay. So now we're at the top of page 4. And I'm going to cover map searching. Now, again, step-by-step instructions on everything I do here, so just watch what's on the screen. You know, let's try this when you get back to your office. So let me do a map search. I'm going to switch to residential. So I see the map. Now, there's a couple different shapes that I can do here. I have the rectangle, the circle, and the free-form polygon. Now I'm going to zoom in. I can double-click or use my scroll wheel. And if I click on the rectangle, I click on this, and then click once. And then move my mouse, and when I'm done, I click again. So I now have 17 results in this shape. Well, you can do multiple shapes. So let's say that this is the husband's search, but the wife, she works right here and she wants to live within, say, mile work. So she can walk when it's nice. So we have his search and we have her search. Now we're up to 26 results. I can't emphasize enough, read your hover text. Shape within, all shape locations are included. Click to intersect. What is this? It's like a Venn diagram.
That's great.
So it shows the one property we know they won't agree on. Thank you for laughing.
That was a test.
Yeah. Well, sometimes classes you can tell whether or not they're having fun by if they're actually laughing. So I'm going to get rid of those two shapes. Now another thing you can do is your circle is basically, it's a radius. So I'm going to zoom out, click on the circle. I'm going to click in the middle of Flagstaff, and we're going to go out, say, 40 some miles. So you have everything with 44-mile radius. Now, shape within, intersection. Let's say my mother-in-law lives in Flagstaff. Well, there's some nice properties in Winslow and Seligman that I can take a look at.
Put her in Winslow.
Yeah. I've never been there, so I don't know if it's nice.
You don't want to go.
Oh, I don't want to go? Okay. Now, I tell that joke so you remember it because the next thing that we're shape with the freeform polygon right here. And this freeform polygon, you can get as exact as you would like. So, a lot of times what I like to do is switch to the satellite view right here. So I can see, if there's actually not any properties anywhere. So I'm going to click on my freeform polygon. Now I'm going to click on this, and then every time I click, it gives me a point. So I can be as exact as I'd like. Now people call FlexMLS support panicking, saying, "Well, why is it following me?" Stop moving your mouse. That's the key. Stop moving your mouse and double click, and that will finish the shape. So I'll show you that one more time. So zoom into an area, you click on your freeform polygon. And every time you click, it gives you a point. When you're done, stop moving your mouse and double click. Now this can be a shape that you do just once, or this can be something that you save for the future. So what do I mean by that? Well, I did a lot of training in North Carolina, and they love their golf courses. So when I would teach this, people would do shapes 1st to the 5th hole, 6th to the 10th hole, 11th through the 15th hole, and then 16th through the 18th. So the 16th through the 18th were the houses that cost the most amount of money. So they'd have a search. They'd call the overarching theme golf course communities, and then they have shapes for the different holes for like 5 or 6 different golf courses. So they'd have a very easy search. Oh, you want to live on the 18th hole? I have a search for that. So what you can do is you can do this a one-time thing, or you can save this for the future. Now the shapes I started doing in the last class is I'm drawing areas around Flagstaff, and I'm putting them in the group Airbnb properties. So let's say you have a client who wants to buy Airbnb or wants to buy income properties. So you have one called west of NAU, south of NAU, because they're like that's where the properties are for Airbnbs or investment properties for college students. So if I want to save this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the polygon, click on Edit. Now, what is the theme of this one? This one is going to be south of NAU. I'm going to give it a color, and I'm going to save it to a map picture. Now, if this is a new overlay, I type in, so is this a gated community? Is this a golf course? Beachfront, next to the National Forest, have a theme for it. And so this one we have Airbnb locations. And I now have a polygon shape called south of NAU. Now these map shapes can be used in stats reports. They can be used in custom hot sheets for searches. All kinds of different things. And so I'm going to remove this. And let's say I was starting a new search, and I know my client's looking for Airbnb locations. I click inside this box right here. I'll read it out to you. MLS number, address, or map overlay. Click inside the box. You see your 3 different shapes. Double click on south of NAU, and actually I want to add north of NAU as well. There we go. I can have as many shapes as I'd like. Now I'm just looking in these two locations, and I can put in my other search parameters. So, does this make sense? Okay.
So you do that as opposed to setting in areas or?
You know, the nice thing about map shapes is you can be as specific as you want. The problem with areas, let's say, for example, you have the area Presidio, and just this is completely arbitrary, but say there's like 4 phases of Presidio. And the first 3 phases are great construction. The 4th phase was a different developer. It's crappy construction. You don't want your clients looking at it. Well, if you use area Presidio, you don't get rid of those properties. And there's no search field that says crappy construction, right? Not crappy construction.
We need that.
Yes. So, but what you could do is if you know that, draw a map shape and do the not within or, eliminate by using the map shape. So they are really good if you need to, get smaller than an area or a subdivision search. So does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to go about 5 more minutes, and then we are going to take a 10-minute break and then finish up the last hour. So one other thing I want to point out, this is a question I got a lot when I was on the road. So what people would ask is, I want to see my production. And they don't mean by numbers. They want to see what they've sold. They want to be able to keep track of it. So it's really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the word report. And right now we are at the top of page 5. So when I type in the word report, there's something called report generation. And when I click on report generation, what it's going to do, it's going to default to all the property types selected. So I want to see everything that I've touched. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to click inside the box that says add a field to the search. And I'm going to type in the word member, because there's something called listing selling member. Now, does anyone have a lot of production? They don't mind me using their example? Okay, I'll just put in a random name. So what I'm going to do is, I think I had marrying last class.
What were you doing, remember?
Remember what you're doing is watch what I'm doing on the screen.
I'm not kidding, so.
Type in member in the quick launch, or not quick launch, the add a field to search. Click on listing selling member, and then you're going to put in a name. And so, Mac, that's who I used in the last class. So Paula Mac. So I'm going to click on Paula Mac. So her name is now blue. I see that she's here. I've had listing, co-listing, selling, co-selling. All of these are selected. Now if I uncheck the status of active, or uncheck this box, it's now going to show everything she's ever touched. So actives, pending, solds, expired. So if I go to the list, here's a search. So she sees the actual listings that she has, everything she's touched. Now the other thing you can do is under edit search, instead of showing everything, I might want to go to status and just click on closed. And I'm going to uncheck the box so I see everything that Paula. So if Paula's doing this, everything she's ever sold, so she has 207 listings. And then she goes to the list. Now if she saves this search, it will always update. If she sells something tomorrow, it's going to show up in this search. Now there's a couple of cool things you can use with this. We're going to go to save search, and I'm going to call this, assuming I was Paula, all my production, and we mark it as a favorite. So this search, I can pull it up at any point, but let's say I have a client who says, well, why should I use you? Well, Paula can send this search to her client and says, this is what I've done in the area. You can always narrow it down to certain areas or whatever you want, but she can show her production with the actual houses. The other thing you can do is, let's say you're having a particularly bad month, you can go to print, switch this to list, and put this on your refrigerator. Everyone has a bad month, but you want to remember you're a hotshot, print this off, multiple pages. The entire fridge shows all your production. So just to sum up what we did again for that. We want to create a report that shows our actual production, not just numbers, but the addresses. Because a lot of times, if you've been in the business a while, you know you sold something on that street, but you can't remember it. So we're going to go to report generation. Go down to add a field to the search. Type in member. Listing selling member. Put in yourself. Click on it so you are blue, so you're highlighted. then co-listing, co-selling, so it shows if you've been on either side, and you can switch your status to closed and just uncheck the box for closed. So instructions step by step are on this sheet of paper, and then you save the search. You can access it at any time. So if I were to type in save searches, I could find it, and in a few minutes it may even show up now. If I were to type in all my production saved search, click on it, comes right up. So you can, like, you're working with the client, like, hey, did you sell anything on the street? Here, let me check. I'm pretty sure I did. There's your addresses, and you can find it. So, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we're just going to spend a couple minutes reviewing. So the first thing we did in this class is we used the quick launch to type in things like an MLS number, 176306, or we typed in an address. Now this is an actual address, 140 Bear Mountain. See, it's been listed multiple times. Or we can do a radius. Now the radius can be around an MLS number and an address, meaning not in the system. If you need to do a CMA for a client, they bought a property 20 years ago, it's not in the system, they want to list it and they want you to do a CMA, do a radius around that address. Then we searched for names. We did some basic searching like land, 200 to 300K. Let's say Prescott. Not Prescott, Flagstaff. Forgetting where I am. So everything Flagstaff. So we have some more advanced search parameters down here. Then what we did is, if we have one MLS number, that's great. But if we have multiple, we type in MLS number search, and we can put in multiple MLS numbers. And I showed you if you select listings on the next screen, you can send them to driving directions so that it goes to Google. I also showed you can type in an address, but if you need to do some detective work, there is an address search option that will allow you to do ranges of house numbers. Then we focused in the lower right corner of a map is a red push pin. You're going to use the red push pin if it's less than 1 mile. That's really the only reason. What some of these different fields did, and that's step-by-step instructions. And then on the map, we focused on shapes, the rectangle, the circle, and the freeform polygon. I do want to point out one thing that's really cool. Eyes up here. If I zoom in all the way to where I see actual parcel numbers, like this eye is called a nosy neighbor. If I click on the eye and then click on a parcel, it should return back if there's any information about that property. So if it's been listed, that kind of thing. And so you can even do a radius search, but you see all the times it's been listed. So that's a really cool option. And then after we did map searching, we did the all my production report, which I just did. So please take a 10-minute break. We will start up again at 2 o'clock. Okay, so we are now on page 5, down towards the bottom, called Customizing Your Menu Favorites. Now you will notice on my screen, it says Quick Search, Hot Sheet, Opt-in Status. These things are things that I've starred here. So if it's something that I do on a daily basis, I want it right here. So I'm going to check the box next to, say, change listing. I'm always changing my listings. I really don't do tour or open houses too much. The opt-in status report. Everyone should write down opt-in status. That's the thing I mentioned before. Your subscriptions are good for 13 months. You should be checking this once a week just to see. Because you may set some up with a subscription and think they're receiving emails, but until they click on that link, they are receiving nothing. I could check the box next to RPR and let's say showing time. I'm going to put my favorite things up at the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to reorder so I can change the order if I want something in a different location. Hold my left mouse button to move something up. Save that. So I put the things that I do on a daily basis right here, and then I use the quick launch bar. If I click inside this box, you type in something like hot sheet if I want to pull that up. The things that I don't necessarily do on a daily basis, once I know what something's called, I find it's easier just to type in the name, and then I can pull it up. So again, things you do on a daily basis here. If I wanted to pull up, say, like the full copy, which takes me a second, type it in, click on full copy, and it goes right to there. Does that make sense? Okay, so what we're going to focus now on is the portal. This is the bottom of page 5. So I'm going to walk you through how to set the portal up, what it looks like, but first I really want you to understand what the portal is intuitively. So think of, you have levels of support with your clients. You have Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 is a manual email. You meet someone, you email them some listings. You are doing all the work. That is not ideal. Tier 2 is the save, search, and subscription. You do a search, you save it, set up a subscription, so the system does the work for you. It emails your clients new listings, price changes, status changes. That's more ideal. Now, what's cool about these subscriptions is, it's a notification system. Your new listings are going to go out in about 10 minutes. Your price changes and your status changes are going to go out in about 2 to 5 minutes. So that's great. Now, what you really want to do is get them up to Tier 3. Tier 3 is the portal. The portal is a website your client can log into, tell you what they like, what they don't like. Now, what I'm going to focus on for the next, say, like 20 minutes is showing you how easy it is to get your client set up with the portal. Now, why is this important? Well, most of your clients are used to using Zillow or other sites. And I didn't realize how important this was until I moved to Miami Beach. I moved to Miami Beach to Prescott. I don't know why, but I used to live in Miami Beach. So I was looking at rentals, and I had a realtor. And, I was finding listings on Zillow. I was emailing her the MLS numbers or texting her because they didn't have a good portal solution, the software that Miami used. So what's the problem about Zillow in a hot market? They're already closed, right? And so I wasted 2 weeks of her time and 2 weeks of my time looking for properties that I was excited about, texting them to her, and then finding out they were already closed. So the number one reason you use the FlexMLS portal, it is live, up-to-date information. Like I said before, new listings go out in 10 minutes. Price changes and status changes in about 2 to 5 minutes. So that's really important in a hot market. Now the other reason to use the FlexMLS portal, number 2, you can track what they're looking at. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll show you in a little bit how you can see what they've saved, what they've viewed. Now the reason that's important is when I worked for FlexMLS, I was on the road sometimes 2 to 3 weeks a month traveling around the country training. So I had a certain price range in mind for my rental. Well, my realtor knew how much money I made, so she had a different price range in mind. So I wasn't home a lot. So what ended up happening is I went down, we looked at some properties, and everything she was showing me was $300 more than what I wanted to spend a month. I wasn't home a lot, but she had no idea how important that was to me because she couldn't see my search. My search was in Zillow, not in the FlexMLS portal. So the 2 reasons to use the portal is 1, live, up-to-date information, and 2, you can track what they're looking at. So what I mean by track what they're looking at, the third tier of support, the portal, is you're letting them do all the work for you. Literally what I'm going to show you is you meet someone, you sign them up in the portal, it takes like a minute. You send that invitation, they sign up, they can go into the portal, they do not need a save, search, and subscription. They can do their own searching. And then once they've done their searching, so Kimmy, for example, I run into you at Walmart. You see my realtor name badge, like, holy crap, he's a realtor. I want to buy a house here. She has no idea if I'm an expert or not. She just assumes I'm an expert. I could be a new agent, but I know how to use the portal. So I tell her, well, the portal is live, up-to-date information. You get to see what I see. Let me set you up with the portal. I send her an invitation. We're chatting for a minute. She pulls up her phone. Here, let me sign into the portal for you. Let me set this up. So I've now given her access to the portal, and the first thing she sees when she logs in is my photo. Everything is branded to me. I've not done a search. I've not done a subscription. I'm just like, hey, I'll let you have fun for a few days, and then what I can do is look at the data that she's generated for me. Then I'll reach out to her and say, hey, it looks like you want between $250,000 and $300,000 in FlexMLS. Let me set up a search and subscription for you so it reminds you of these new listings. So you're actually doing it backwards. The search and subscription reminds them to go back in the portal, and when they log on, when they click on one of the subscription emails, it logs them back into the portal. So does that make sense? We're really focusing, you got a couple minutes with the client. At Walmart, she's in a hurry, or like other example I had before, we're working in an open house, completely full. Someone comes up, they're not even interested in that property, but they want to talk to a realtor, and you don't have a lot of time. Let me get you set up with the portal, and then I'll follow up with you in a few days. It's no stress for them, you're not pressuring them, and you're giving them what they want anyways. They want to do their own searching. Real estate has really evolved. Like before it was start to finish, right? Now when they come to you, it's already halfway through the process. they're a lot of times already know what they want, or they're doing their own searching. So the second half of the process is stress-free transactions, holding their hand, getting them through this, which is one of the most stressful parts. So if you use the technology to free up the first part, and you get really good at it, you can spend much more time doing what your job is really helping people buy houses or sell houses. So the portal is just one of those things that I think it's so important. That's why I have it in the best of, because people don't understand like what it's for or how they can use it. So does that make sense? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually set up our portal. So I'm going to click inside this box and type in portal. And I'm going to go to portal preferences. Now we are on the bottom of 5 and all of page 6. Step-by-step instructions and everything that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to type in the word portal. And I'm going to go to portal preferences. Now, if you see this screen, all you're going to do is just click on try the new FlexMLS portal. There was an old portal and then there's a new portal. The new portal is what you want because it looks much nicer. And it's modern and it allows them to search. So I do that. Now there's a couple things that I want to point out. Portal basics. This portal URL, here I need to spit this out. I should know. I was trying to make my breath minty fresh. So this portal URL, you want to write this down. This is your portal site. This, like if someone went to www.facebook.com and your name, that would bring you to your Facebook page. This is your site. Their username is going to be their email address and then their password. If you walk them through the process, signing up, I would just do 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not secure information, it's just listings, public listings, so they don't see commission rates, they don't see the other agent. So keep it simple. But what's cool about this URL is we know that there are a lot of transplants that come here. So they might come in from California for the weekend. Well, if you have limited time to work with them, put this URL on an iPad or an Android tablet. iPads are $300 now. Android tablets you can get for like $100, $150. So what I do is, my phone's over there, but I use my phone as my mobile hotspot for my internet, and then I use my iPad and I work out of my car. So we know that this area is pretty big geographically if you're looking at different properties. They're in the passenger seat. You hand them your tablet. They can log in, and then they're looking at the portal. Like, hey, what does this do? Oh, that star, that tells me you like something. Oh, what does this do? Oh, that hides a listing. So you teach them how to use the portal while they're here. Then when they go back to California, all you're doing now is looking at the data that they generate, the listings that they're viewing, the searching that they're doing, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? So this URL is something that you can bookmark and put on your tablet. And you want to make sure it says portal enabled, this is turned on. Now the other thing I want to point out that's really important, intro email. Your message is going to be different. And so I actually have the text right here. I've updated the text that's here so my client can understand what it means. Because FlexMLS, it says a, in quotation marks, portal of your information or something. It's like, well, what does that mean? So I changed it to welcome to your portal. This is not about me. This is about them, helping them buy properties or sell properties. And so what I say is welcome to your portal. Here you can do your own searching, save the listings you like, and hide the listings you don't. And the best thing, the listings you see in the portal contain live, up-to-date information, something that other sites like Zillow don't have. So in a couple sentences, I've explained exactly the purpose of the portal, something that they can understand. And then I say click on the link and follow the steps. On the next screen, tap or click on the person icon in the upper right corner to sign up. So simple message, they click on that, and then they're going to sign up for the portal. Questions on this? Okay, I'm going to save that. So how do you invite them to the portal? There's a couple ways. It's really, really simple. Let's say, for example, you are working that open house. You're at the kitchen counter. You run into that person who's in a hurry. And so you don't have much time, so you just get their information. So I'm going to type in Wedge Antilles. Put in his email address. Check the portal box. Click on Add and say, okay, I've sent you that invitation. If you have time to walk them through the process, you've got a few more minutes, that's great. If not, just say they'll get that email, they'll sign up and say, I'll reach out to you in a couple days or tomorrow, whatever. So that's all it takes to do the portal here. Now the other way to do the portal is, so we'll go back to Kimmy. m.flexmls.com. We are at, and I'll even make it look like a phone. We're at Walmart. I want to get her information. So I go into contacts. I see the option to add a contact. I get her information and I fill it out. Now this would be a great example to say, okay, maybe Kimmy's going to try to give me a fake email address. Well, we get that stuff, right? So you can tell her, okay, well, I'm going to email this to you right now and I'll help you sign up. So you ensure that you get that correct email address. You fill out this information and then there's going to be a button to say, either says send invite here, if it's an Apple device, and it's all explained in the handout, or if you click on their name, you see the send invite, and these are both portal invitations. Just takes you a minute to sign them up. Once they get logged in, they're going to go to the races, have the fun, and then they're generating data. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the portal, and then we're going to generate the data and take a look at what that looks like. So, any questions on that? Okay, so this is what the portal looks like when they log in. Now, this is what it looks like on a mobile device. The screen is mobile responsive, so if they are on a desktop site or on a tablet, it goes full screen. So it's based on the screen size, but they're probably going to be pulling it up on their phone. So they see the information about you. First thing they see is your name. That's what you want. You want to get them hooked on your information, on your stuff. And so again, you explain the value of it, the live up-to-date information. I've had agents tell me, they have clients that have looked at a property on 5 different sites just to see if anything's wrong with it or see if the information's different, because that's not the primary source of information where FlexMLS is. So if you can get them into the FlexMLS portal, it really saves you some time. Now, what do you think this magnifying glass does? Search, right? This is meant to be as easy as possible. So go to search. What do you think the filter button does? Yeah, fair. And it narrows it down. So we go to filter. And then, okay, so this is your client right now doing their own searching. And if they're, in the car with you, they're in from California, from Minnesota, say, what does this do? Once you've learned the portal, you don't even have to look at it. Say, oh, that's what this does. And so they could star things that they like, hide things that they don't like. Go to map. I wonder what that does. I tap on map. Okay, here's the map. What do you think this shape does?
Allows you to draw it.
Lets them to draw, yeah. So it's just like something that they would do on Zillow, but this is that live, up-to-date information. So much better than Zillow. And also Zillow has limited fields, or what Zillow calls things may be different. So if I tap on something, this is, every time they tap on a listing, they view the listing. So first thing you see up at the top, contact agent. Who is that? That is you. That's not the other person. They have access just to you, not the other agents. And so they can send you a message. But this is public information, so they're not going to see the other agent, commission rates, that kind of thing, lockbox information. Show more, and this is all that public information. That's really cool. They can hide or save. And what's cool about these labels is this is exactly what it's called here, where Zillow might map things differently and have some weird label names. So it's very obvious what these fields are. And if they share listings, this is important because they'll usually share listings to husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, and this information can be tracked, the listings that they're sharing. So basically, this is where they're doing the work. You give them access to the portal. It takes you a couple minutes. They click on stuff. They tell you what they like, what they don't like. Really, really simple. Now, the star is the save thing. And if I were to go to the full screen, we see saved. So the star is saved. Now, you'll notice up at the top it says search is saved by you or your agent. Nothing is saved. You don't have to save a search and subscription for the portal, like I said. Now, for Kimmy, I give her the information in a couple days. I look at her information that she generated by what she saved, what she's viewed, and then I say, Kimmy, looks like this is what you want. Is that right? Okay, let me save this search and subscription, and that's going to show up right here. And then, like I said before, the subscription, they click on that subscription email, it logs them back in. So once you have that cookie in your browser, it brings you right back in. So, and like saved and hidden, sometimes your clients cannot verbalize what they like, but you can look at it and try to figure it out to help them out. So, And I'm not picking on you, it's just you're the one name tag that I can actually read. So.
Okay.
Now the bell, this is the news feed. Now if they have the subscription turned on, the new listings, price changes, status changes will show up here like Twitter. The newest ones will be up at top. So they can even go to the news feed like, oh, I saw something a couple of days ago. Where was that? Oh, it's right here. So to really understand the portal, what I recommend doing, and what I do in my actual portal class, I did this in Sedona, is we do portal partners where you take turns being the agent and the client. You set yourselves up with portals, generate data, and then you reverse. You look at the data and try to figure out what it is that your client wants. It gives you a reason to reach out to them. That's what we want. You've done almost no work. You're not pressuring them. And when you do, if you view this listing 6 times, they're probably interested in it. So I'll show you what I mean. When we go into contact management, here are our list of contacts. Now I've been using Luke as my example for this. Now activity last 7 days, I was doing some setup this morning, but if someone was active like yesterday, you'll see this is really, really blue. So FlexMLS set this up, basically let you know, focus on your clients who are actually using the system, focus on people who are interested. But if I tap on Luke Skywalker and I go to activity, I see, I can see like maybe he's always active on the weekends or something. But I see viewed listings, 10, I click on this. Strawberry, oh, he's really interested. This right here, this is the reason I have to call him now or to email him and text him and say, hey, are you going to be in town this weekend? You look like you're really interested in this property. Can you take a look? And maybe there's a couple of properties interested in. Or maybe you go to the portal section and you see saved and hidden. You can actually look at, okay, let's see what he saved. Maybe I can get an idea of what he likes. So obviously there's a wide variety of price range here, but like maybe everything's between 500, 600,000. That'll give you a better idea on how to work with him. Okay, so does everyone understand the purpose of the portal? That's really my key. I want you to understand it. You can always learn this by reading the handout or watching my video. I just want to make sure you get like why you would do it. Do you see value in the portal?
Yes.
Okay, good. So really it comes down to is you have to figure out your 30-second elevator speech. You got to have like your minute or 2 minute long portal speech. Explain the value in terms of your client, why they should use it. And then once you get them hooked on it, they will use it. I used to teach in Space Coast. Me up every month to do training for them. And so I got to work with new agents for like 8 months and do all these different classes and able to teach them stuff like that. And some were telling me they could get 90% of their clients on the portal by being able to explain it in terms of what their client understood, get them off those other sites, especially that live up-to-date information, or you have that investor, like they're trying to use other sites. That investor gets that new listing in 10 minutes with that subscription, and then they can log into the portal immediately. Like that is really, really valuable information. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are at the top of page 7. So this one is really simple. Basically, I have 2 screenshots. You can customize the fields, the columns that are here. Now yours is going to have a lot less. So if you go to Advanced and then click on Customize Contact List, let me actually remove a few things to show you what... This is what yours is going to look like. It's a lot of wasted space. There's a lot of great information I can put here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Advanced, Customize Contact List, and I'm going to add things like saved and hidden. These saved and hidden, once I have the portal on for my client, this is actually data that I can look at. Date created. This will tell me when their contact was created. So if I have clients that are 10 years old, 5 years old, and I want to clean out my contacts list, I can sort by date created. Display name. You could switch it from first to last or last to first. But then if I save this, my contact list now is customized, and I see, okay, Luke has saved 6 and hidden 5. I can click on this, and that'll go right into his save. So it will save me some time or give me some valuable information. Questions on that? Yes?
If you have like husband and wife and they both have different emails, can you put them
Yes.
in a group together?
Yeah, so what you would do,
So, you know,
okay, so we see Luke Skywalker, we see his email. If I were to click on Edit Contact, Additional Contact, I don't think he ever married. I don't know. I haven't watched the new movies. I refuse to, so I don't know. The Mandalorian was quite good though. I do like that. So you add the new contact, add, notify. You could put in her name as well. So the husband and wife both under one record.
So they're shared in that same portal.
Yes. Though, well, if they have the different email addresses, it might work with just one email address or both. Honestly, I don't know. The functionality's changed so much with the portal that I don't quite know that part. So,
I have a question.
yes.
With your saved searches,
Mhm.
they don't go out immediately, do they? I often find people call me about properties and I tell them I send them immediately, but then they get them like 8 hours later.
Okay, there's two ways to do it. That's an excellent question. Let me just point out. There's two ways to do a subscription, really. So I'm just going to pull up a search. If we were to save this, now you can pull up subscriptions a couple different ways. But let me just do an existing contact. We'll save and add subscription. Your subscription, you want to focus on weekly or ASAP. Now, weekly means once a day, every day, an email will go out at the same time. Here it might be 7 a.m., might be 4 p.m. So yeah, that's where there can be a delay. But if you have someone looking to buy up something quickly, do the ASAP. That's where the 10 minutes or the, for new listings, 2 to 5 minutes for price or status changes. So, but just ASAP, if you have a first-time home buyer looking at everything in Coconino County and you turn this on, you're basically going to be spamming them. But if you have an investor, someone who knows what they want, definitely do the ASAP because they want that email immediately so they can jump on stuff. So, or someone was telling me earlier, like you have certain houses between 300 and 350 in certain subdivisions, they go like that. So that's where you want the ASAP. So does that make sense? Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of stats. So what I'm going to do is I can type in market for the market summary report, or if I already have it saved on my quick launch. But the market summary report is where you get just some really basic statistics. Now, I just ran this in the last class from Munns Park, so I'm going to show you what it looks like. Normally you're going to see residential. I want everyone to write this down. Residential, and so right now we are on kind of the middle and the bottom of page 6. Residential means all of NAR, N-A-A-R. That means it's showing everything. But what I'm going to do is we're going to focus on customizing this so we can do different areas or different cities, different zip codes. Does that make sense? Okay. So just give you a second to write that down. So again, residential. And it's going to default to the last full month. So December was the last full month. So I'm going to go up to customize. And then we're going to do new location. Now, I'm going to click inside the box that says city, postal code, etc. And there's going to be a pop-up. Now, people think that these are the only options. These aren't the only options. These are just recently used ones. So if I need to type in something like 180, because I want to do Railroad Springs, there we go. Or I could type in Railroad Springs. Now, the key thing about the market summary report is you can only use one option at a time. So if I use Railroad Springs, I can't do another area. This is, remember, our map shapes are important because if I click inside this box, what do we see down at the bottom? Airbnb locations. I could draw a map shape that covers a couple different subdivisions or a couple different areas or something that means something to me, and then I could do north of NAU and run a market summary report on that location. So that is a cool option. Now I'm just going to keep it with Presidio. Double click, I have my one option. Now, you'll notice report date, December 2019. For the stats report that I showed you, I went back to 2000. You can go back as long as there's data. So like say you have a client says, well, when I purchased the house in 2010, this is what the market was like. Well, you can actually pull that up and prove them wrong. You don't have to be mean about it, but it does show you some pretty cool stuff. So I'm just going to run it for December 2019. Click on search. Now I see things like number of listings, listing prices. If you see a wrench, this allows you to customize the chart. Again, I cannot emphasize enough the hover text. Hover text is so important. So maybe want to add the pending listings. Like absorption rate. It actually tells me what absorption rate means. Now, so this is fascinating for the absorption rate. 1 to 4 months is a seller's market. 4 to 5 is a neutral market. 5 and above is a buyer's market. So look, Presidio was a buyer's market for almost all of summer. Now it's getting better again. But this can give you valuable information. Sold to list ratios. Things were going so fast that people actually had to pay above market values. So, pretty interesting. Days on market. Now, you'll notice, here's the average. One thing I did in that stats report is I used the median values because you look at the difference. We have, okay, so this one isn't actually too different. The average and the median is close. But in some places, the average would be 120 and the median was 60 because you had a couple properties that were just screwing it up for everyone. Same thing with the prices. I always use the median prices because you might go in some places where the average list price is $100,000 more than the median price. Because you got a couple properties that are, really, really skewing it. Or maybe there's bad data, so that can happen. So again, to get in the market summary report, we're going to type in market, or we're going to go to market summary. If you see residential, just residential, it means everything. So if I go to customize, new location, and maybe I want to do Munns Park this time. I can do either the city or the actual area. Maybe we'll just do the city. I'm going to do the search. And you do have access to Sedona listings if you want. So this does it for Munns Park. See some information. See, this is one thing where I see, look at the average list price for the median list price. $100,000 or $110,000 difference. But what's cool about this is if you go to advanced, you can actually export all the data. So this is the data I use for a stats report. So I'll export this into Excel or use Google Sheets. And this will give you the raw numbers where this is all generated. So after you've done some stats reports, if you go to customize, there's an option for previous locations. So you click on previous locations, you can see all the ones that you've done before. So I'm going to star the ones that I'm really interested in. So under customize, I also have the option to go to favorite locations. Here are all the locations. Maybe I want to run this once a month, and then I want to export the data because I want to use that data for something cool. Clients, 77% of the time they go with the first agent that they've interviewed. But 12% of the time they remember the name of their client. So what people will do is they'll generate this data, make a real simple stats infographic, takes them 5 minutes, and then they'll email previous clients, say, hey, this is what's going on in the market. If you have any friends or families, referrals are the greatest, compliment. Or what they'll do is they'll leave the portal on. They'll say, okay, I'm going to leave the portal on for you so you can log in and check whenever you want. And I've had agents tell me they have clients that search almost on a daily basis, and they've been moved in 18 months ago because they want to know. So what's going to happen when their friend or family member says, hey, who is your realtor? Who do you recommend? They're going to recommend you. So use the software to make sure your face and your information is in front of them. So
one suggestion that I would make is that after your buyers bought something, ask them, because a lot of times I don't want to see the rest of the inventory that's there because I don't feel like I might have bought something maybe there's something better out there than what I bought. Is ask them to put them on their neighborhood search so they can see the area that they're living in, the active and the pending and the sold, to keep track of that.
Yeah, exactly.
A way to keep them involved as well, and they don't want to be see other homes necessarily that was their search.
yes, exactly. So it's just use the software. You're paying money for the software. It does so many things for you. And put the subscription, but just so they remember who you are. Yes.
So the month and year there, is that, it just defaults, you don't really have any, you can't do multiple months like Q1?
Well, no. So what it does, it goes back 12 months. So if you look at the chart, you'll see January or December to January. So yeah, it doesn't group it like quarter one, quarter two, but it always goes back 12 months. And if you pull up the actual, the raw data, here are all the months, and here's all that information. So basically, what I FlexMLS, this report is cool, but I don't like. It's not very readable. It's not modern. So the report that I created for y'all, this one, I made it look nice with actual information. This is just stuff from a couple different CMA reports and stats reports, and then made it user friendly. So.
So did you copy and paste that into the spreadsheet, or did you export it and it went into a spreadsheet?
No, I basically the graphs. I have the framework, and then I do cut and paste with raw data, And then so I can, because I'm going to do this for a bunch of different boards. So this is just like my personal report.
So it will not export to a CSV file for us?
No, if you, this right here is a CSV file. The
But did that come from MLS, it'll export that out for you in a spreadsheet?
From the market summary report, if you go to advanced, export all data, this is the CSV. That report is a custom one I did for you. So that's not something that would export. So. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're in the home stretch. So last page, custom flyers. Now I talked about on the Facebook video page before, I do have about an hour and 10-minute class that does custom flyers. This one I'm going to do about 20 minutes. So, one really cool thing you could do is you can type in my reports. And go to my reports. Now this came up because I had a lot of people ask me, hey, I want to make my own custom flyers. How do I do so? It's really easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on New. And don't worry, step-by-step instructions on the last page of the paper. I'm going to click on Customer Flyer. Now the most common flyers are the 5-photo and the 7-photo. I find I like using the 5-photo. So I'm going to click on the 5-photo flyer. Now, there are two parts of this. The first part, we are going to customize the template. We're going to put the fields in there that we're interested in. And then the second part, we're going to actually pull up a listing to print off for an open house. Does that make sense? So first part, again, is just the template. So I look at it, now I notice I can do different colors. And it'll say things like edit this container. So I'm going to click on edit this container. Click here to add fields. So I'm going to do primary phone, cell phone, email, website, add whatever I want. Click on update. So now this is my branding, the information that I have. Usually I have a photo of Chewy, but forgot this time. And here are the photos. Now, in the second part of this section, we can actually replace these photos. Why is that important? Well, a lot of the high-end properties, the first 5 photos are all exterior photos. So you could do bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchen, or whatever. And then the first one obviously would be the exterior. But that's the second half. Right now, we're just focusing on the template. So I'm going to edit this container. And this one, I'm going to call it just basics. And I'm going to give it a couple of columns because I want to add things like bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, square footage, lot. Okay, so I've added some information. Now, I know this is going to be 2 columns, and so it's going to kind of be crunched. So I want to make sure I use this space efficiently. So the number of bedrooms, number of beds, number of bathrooms. Now, once you've spent 15-20 minutes on this report, you save this, you can use the same one. It's much faster next time because all this stuff is already done for you. Garage capacity, well, I'm just going to call it garage space. Spaces or something takes a little less space. Approximate square foot, maybe I just want to do APPR or some APPX. If I'm worried it's going to bleed over to the next section. So I'm happy with these fields. Click on update. Now, look what I see. Nice, efficient use. Maybe I could add one more field with basic information. Now, remarks, I don't know why remarks is here. It really should be down here, and so we're going to move it. Because when you see this exclamation, it means it doesn't fit. So I'm going to edit this container, and this one, I like to call it features. And I'm fine with one column. And I'm going to do kitchen features. And maybe I'm going to do, or we'll do living room features. So I've had these 2. I click on update. Now, nice usage of this box with some information about the kitchen and the living room. Details. For details, I'm going to edit this container, and I'm actually going to make this one 3 columns. And details is fine. So let's just start adding some information. So we're going to do human days on market, new construction. Maybe I want to do area, subdivision, builder. Now, what's cool about, or maybe add an HOA fee and maybe make this one smaller, whatever you want to call this. What's cool about this is if the field doesn't have any in that field, it doesn't show it on the report. It only shows the reports that has actual information. So let's do a year built as well. So I've added a bunch of fields. I click on update, fills in nice. Now, once you're comfortable with this, or you know the area, what fields mostly will have information, you can make sure that you are using this space really efficiently. And additional info, I'm going to edit this container, and this is where I'm going to call it remarks. And we will just do public remarks. So now I have a complete report that I can save, and anytime I want to print off a report for an open house, I just do a little bit of tweaking. So does this make sense? We're doing the first part, we're creating the template. We're taking our time. I mean, this might only take you 15, 20 minutes. Go through, add the fields that you're really interested in, and then I'm just going to save as, and I'm going to call this JD's 5-photo flyer. Okay, so I've saved a nice report. Now let's just do hot sheet. Let's pull up a new listing. So let's say, example, I got an open house tomorrow, and I'm tired of paying a professional to do these flyers when I have this nice option right here in FlexMLS. So I need to find one that actually has a bunch of photos. There we go. Okay, so that's got photos. Okay. So I could type in that MLS number, remember from the first hour, pull up that if I know it, or if I know the address of my listing, or all your coworkers, when they find out you can do this, they're going to ask you to do their flyers for them. So I want you to pay close attention here. So this kind of confuses people because they don't quite understand the difference between the templates. The first part, you only have to do that once. And then now when you actually want to print off a flyer, you do this as many times as you'd like. So we have this property, we're going to have an open house. Go to print. And then we just find our flyer. So I have Chewy's, I did that in the last class, we'll do JD. Now the key thing, and pay close attention here, edit is grayed out. And don't worry, instructions are here on the sheet. If I click on preview, the edit button will suddenly pop up. And so we see photos. Now they're all exterior, like I said before. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap these out. Now who here currently uses Chrome as their primary browser? This happens in every class. The one problem with Chrome is FlexMLS is not a standalone program. It's a website that has to rely on browsers working correctly. For some reason, Chrome has a bug that if you click on a photo to replace it, it deletes it. Every other browser is fine. FlexMLS can't really do anything about it because it's not their browser. And so hopefully it'll fix it. But if you are doing these, I would just use Firefox. That's personally my favorite browser.
When you say delete it from the flyer?
Yeah, no, it's just like you click on this, you try to replace it, it just goes away.
Oh, okay.
And so there's no way to bring it back because it's just this weird Chrome bug that we noticed a couple months ago. Don't know why.
Okay.
So we click on edit. So once edit is available, and I'm going to just take a look, everything looks right. Okay, we didn't have remarks here. So I'm actually going to pull up a different property. Kind of need remarks.
If they don't show up, can you just copy and paste them?
Well, their remarks are supposed to be public,
Right.
so they should be showing up. So that means that I'm just going to double check to make sure I did public remarks and not private remarks.
You did.
I did public, or
No, you did.
okay. So we'll just pull up this listing right here. So I could do the quick launch. Pull it up. Click on print. And then we'll preview and click on edit once it's there. Give it a second. There, it's edit. Now it's going to bring me into the edit screen. So this is that second part we were talking about. So I'm just going to add, maybe it was Pimlico Road. I don't know what it actually is, but I'm going to clean that up. And then,
Don't you want to add your information?
well, my information is already here. Like, this is a test account, but your information would come over if you have, like, websites and stuff. So, yeah, that should all come out. This is just because of the test account. And then, okay, approximate square foot, I'm just going to clean that up, remove the .0.
Garage space, the same thing too. Okay, this all looks great. Now, if you have like a lot of features that take up a lot of space, you could always go like this and then shrink your font size if you want to make sure that it all fits. Like maybe you have 3 different features and you want them all to fit. That's a cool thing. So this part really is only going to take you a couple minutes, especially once you get fast at it. And then if all this information looks good, now see your remarks. Now, the problem with remarks in FlexMLS is it gives you 800 characters limit, so it'll fit onto one screen. Well, when you're trying to print off a flyer, that doesn't really work. So usually what you do is just delete that last line, or maybe you would have a specific remarks that you have that fit better for this flyer. But that more is meant to be clicked on when you're emailing stuff. It doesn't work for the purposes of a flyer. Now, a few other things I can do. Now, if I click on my photo and I shrink this, this gives me room to upload like the Fair Housing, Realtor R, or like say my office logo. And to upload logos, you go into the My Profile. And who here's uploaded their profile photo? It's pretty easy. You just go to Personal Photo and Logo Maintenance. Same thing, you just upload a logo. In the Facebook video, I do go through that step by step if you want to watch that. Just don't have time for that in this class. But when you upload photos, they're going to be under My Photos right here. Now, the other thing is this is where we swap out those photos. So these 5 are exterior photos. So if I'm going to click on it, go to List Photos. Click on List Photos, and then I'm going to scroll down until I get some interior photos. Okay, there's a nice kitchen one. And it changes in the background. It's not obvious. And then the next one, we're going to change this one, List Photos. And so we did that. Let's do, first one we did kitchen. Let's do the living room. This one. We'll swap out. And we'll do kitchen. And this one, let's see if we can find a nice bedroom photo. Okay, there's the master bedroom. There we go. So I've used the photos because, especially with those nice high-end properties, your first 5 photos, first 10 may all be exterior photos. And then when everything looks good, I can email or print this. I usually like to save these, but I call them 3, 4, 5, 2. Name them after property. But if you go to print, it's going to open up a new tab. You can print it, or a lot of times if your computer has a print to PDF option, you can print to PDF, and then it's a PDF file. I mean, look how nice this is. And this took us like 5 minutes. Once we got the template, it only takes you a couple minutes. This is something you can print off, and it looks really nice. So I'm just going to save this real quickly. Does that make sense? Okay. So just going to spend the last few minutes kind of summing up what we did, and then we are good. So in the second half of the class, what we focused on is, first thing is we customized this menu right up here. So I put the things that I do on a daily basis up here, and I can do that by clicking on menu and starring things. And if I want to change the order, I go to reorder. Hold my left mouse button and change the order. Then we talked about the portal. Now the 2 takeaways about the portal is, okay, you have levels of support really for your clients. Tier 1 is that manual email. You do the work. Tier 2 is the save, search, and subscription. The system does the work. Tier 3 is the portal. Your client does the work. You're usually going to combine 2 and 3 together. But what we did in this class is really showed you, you can send an invite to your client either from the desktop site or from your app. It only takes you 30 seconds, a minute. They get that invitation. They sign up. To understand it, I would work with someone in your office or like your husband and wife. Work with them to figure out how it works. Because once you understand it's really easy, you get them into the portal. They don't need the search and subscription. You let them go crazy, and then you follow up in a couple days, and you look at that data that's generated. So what I mean by that is we go into contact management. I set up Luke like 3 days ago. He ran into me at the grocery store. I go into activity, viewed listings. What jumps out at you? What is so obvious to you right now, right? He likes that property. I have a reason to contact him, and he's not going to have a problem with it because I'm not forcing anything on him. He is interested in that property. So you have a reason to contact him. Or you go to the portal, you see what they saved or what they've hidden. Then what we did is we focused on something real simple. These fields right here.
Jeff, why would they hide something?
They don't like blue siding. No, seriously, like they just hide the weirdest thing. Like,
Get rid of it, okay.
yeah, they get rid of it so they don't see it again. Some people are very, very picky or particular, so they'll hide things. Sometimes they ask you to hide stuff for them. Yeah, I don't question people anymore. I've just seen some. The blue siding, though, I had an agent said her client called them up and was screaming at them because they hated blue siding. And why were they sending them listings with blue siding? So, you never know.
Can you hide listings for clients?
You can hide listings for a client. Yeah, it's pretty easy. So if you were to go into, say if I go into Luke, I go to Hidden. You see it says for Luke Skywalker. These are the 5 that he's hidden. But if I was in any sort of like search or anything I can do, what I mean by that is it says for Luke Skywalker. If you just do a regular search, see it says work on behalf of, it no longer says for Luke Skywalker. Just change this to say Luke Skywalker, and then the screen suddenly changes. And okay, you want to hide stuff. Watch what happens to hidden by agent. There we go. So the work on behalf of, that is right there. Okay, so we did the customization and contact management. Basically, all we did was, these columns aren't used very well, so we're going to go up to advanced, customize contact list, and add a few more things in here that we are interested in. Then we did the market summary report. I pulled up a market summary report, and if you see, if it just says residential, that means everything. This is everything. So if I want to customize, I go here, new location, and I click inside the box. Remember, these aren't all the options. This is just some options. If I type in a area, double click, you can only do one here. Click on search, and it will do stats for that area. Now, once you've done some stats reports, go to customize, go to the previous locations, start the ones that you like, and then whenever you go to customize favorite locations, there you will see all your favorite locations. And the last thing we did was the customer flyer, which I just showed you. So that is it. Was this helpful?
Yes.
Please tell the staff that so they bring me back. So I can stay around for about another 10-20 minutes answering any questions for you. Otherwise, I do ask if you have any feedback, let me know. This is my second board, and this is all I'm going to do is I'm going to travel the country, train, do some consulting. So yeah, any feedback, testimonials, or anything, let me know. Otherwise, I want to thank you and have a wonderful day.
Perfect, thank you.